Welcome in, everybody, to the Week 9 Waiver Wire Show. We're going to get into the waivers for here for Week 9. As you can see below, subscribe, follow us on X and Instagram. I also have a fantasy football life advice Facebook group. But we're going to get into waivers. Some of these guys could be league winners going forward. Think about your Alvin Kamara's, your OBJs coming off the waivers back in the day. Alfred Morris, D'Angelo Williams when he played for the Steelers backing up Le'Veon Bell. Even Peyton Hillis, the one-hit wonder. But guys like this that come off the waivers that end up making a difference on your team, a difference enough that you could win your league. A few of these guys today could be those guys. So stick around, take a look and see if any of them pique your interest. Running backs this week, not a whole lot on the waiver wire. Past weeks we've had a little more, but this week I got one. It's more of a speculative ad with things that are happening. But Isaac Guerendo for the San Francisco 49ers. Jordan Mason went down with that shoulder injury again this past week. Kyle Shanahan said he probably could have returned to the game, but didn't. They have a bye week this week, and word is Christian McCaffrey's practice window is going to be opened up next week, but we don't know how long it's going to take him to activate him. They're hoping next week, but this injury is kind of up in the air. Nobody really knows how it's going to work, if he's even going to play the rest of the year, but they're going to open up his practice window, and we'll see how it plays out. If it doesn't play out and he doesn't come back after the bye week, we don't know what Jordan Mason's injury is going to lead to. Guerendo's 9% rostered and looked pretty explosive yesterday, more explosive than Jordan Mason did in that game. So if the 49ers are smart, they'll run Guerendo, let Mason rest up. But if McCaffrey's ready to go, Guerendo's a drop candidate immediately. But like I said, just a speculative ad. They come back, they play Tampa. They're a little bit of a better run defense, but I trust any of the 49ers running backs against pretty much any opponent. Doesn't really matter. So we'll move on. We'll go into the wide receivers. I have more wide receivers to talk about this week. It was a pretty big week for wide receivers. Brian Thomas with an injury day-to-day. Christian Kirk went down. Stefon Diggs went down. Deebo Samuel's dealing with an injury. So they're piling up, and we have some decent fill-ins to talk about and some that could be starters for the rest of the season. Cedric Tillman for the Cleveland Browns. Tillman I watched all his routes from this past week, and he looks legit. Jameis Winston at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns is a difference maker, and it showed this past week against the Ravens. Tillman's 24% rostered. When Cooper left this offense, 82% snap share, 90% snap share, 12 targets, 8 receptions for 81 yards in week 7, 9 targets for 7 receptions, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns in week 8. This could be the new wide receiver 1 for the Cleveland Browns. Everybody's expecting it to be Jerry Jeudy, but Tillman has stepped up and he looks legit. So if he's on your waivers, grab him. Even if you're not willing to start him this week, which he's got a really good matchup against the Chargers, he's a good ad just in case he does continue at this pace, because he will be a league winner for some people going forward if he plays like this. So Cedric Tillman, like I said, Jameis Winston's changed his lineup, or changed his roster, stepping into that quarterback role. And I know a lot of Browns fans and Browns staff are probably sick to their stomachs with the contract that they're paying Deshaun Watson, but you could be seeing the end of that era and then moving on. So grab Cedric Tillman, and we'll move on. Nick Westbrook-Akine for the Tennessee Titans. DeAndre Hopkins left the roster, headed over to the Chiefs this past week, and look at Akine's snap share go up to 92%. Played pretty much double his snaps from the previous week. And granted, the targets and the receptions didn't go up, but Akine scored a touchdown in each of the past 3 games. Seems to be their good red zone target. And if his snap share stays there, I can see him continuing to garner targets as they go forward. Obviously, Calvin Ridley is their wide receiver 1, had a great game yesterday, but Akine seems to be stepping into a better role. So grab Akine. As you can see, it's showing 0% rostered, which means not even rostered enough to really register at Sleeper. He's owned less in Yahoo and in ESPN. So grab Akine. Stash him on your bench if you're not ready to start him yet, but could be a good bye week filler, and who knows going forward, he could be a good starter going forward. Next up, Xavier Legette for the Carolina Panthers. Legette could improve quite a bit here. The trade deadline's coming up on the early November here. I can't remember the exact day, but Deontay Johnson has been talked about on the trade block. If Deontay Johnson gets traded, Xavier Legette is the wide receiver 1 for the Carolina Panthers, and that's value. Even the Carolina Panthers are bad, having a wide receiver 1 on any team is good value. He's 37% rostered in Sleeper, so get out there and grab him. He's got a good schedule going forward, but 7 targets, 4 receptions, 34 yards and a touchdown this past week. He has 3 touchdowns over the past 5 weeks, so could be a breakout over the second half of the season if Deontay Johnson gets traded. So moving on, we'll talk about another Browns receiver, Elijah Moore. So Elijah Moore, 8% roster in Sleeper. Same thing. Good schedule going forward, just like Cedric Tillman, but 12 targets this past week. Leader in targets on the team, and could be a great PPR option. I like Cedric Tillman more because I think there's more value on the targets he gets. But Elijah Moore could be a great PPR option with Jameis Winston at quarterback. When I think of Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman, I'm thinking Jameis Winston back in his day with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Obviously, it's not Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They're better receivers. But who knows what the future holds for these two with a decent quarterback throwing them the ball. And you know Jameis likes to throw the ball. So, and he seems to have this team on his back. So grab Elijah Moore. Good PPR option. Moving on. This is more of a week or two fill-in. With Jameson Williams out of the lineup, Khalif Raymond seems to be stepping in. Still only playing around 30% of the target share or snap share. But this Detroit offense is powerful. I think back to the days of the greatest show on turf with the St. Louis Rams. The Lions have something to say. Past couple weeks, throwing up 50 points, close to it. This offense is powerful. I don't really care what the schedules say because there's so many weapons on this offense that they all seem to perform every week, and it doesn't seem nobody seems to be slowing them down right now. So grab Lions if you can, if there's any available. But Khalif Raymond is available in most leagues. He's only 2% rostered. Touchdown of the past 2 weeks. And Jameson Williams is going to miss this next week as well. So could be a good ad, fill in for the bye, even though they're playing a tougher Green Bay secondary. Raymond could still be a good bye week filler if you need one. Moving on, Demarcus Robinson. So a lot of people expected a lot out of Demarcus Robinson when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua went down. But if you notice with his stats here, he seems to do better when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are in the lineup, or at least one of them. First 2 weeks, Puka went down the first week, but Demarcus Robinson still had Cooper Kupp in the lineup and still scored 6.2 fantasy points. Cooper Kupp went down the second week, but Robinson put up 6 points that week. But after that, beyond the week where he scored a touchdown. And if he didn't score that touchdown, he would have still been extremely low in points. He didn't score over 5 fantasy points in any game. And then first week with Puka and Cooper Kupp back, even though they didn't play a full snap count, as much as I would expect them to play going forward. He had 3 targets, 2 receptions, both were touchdowns. But Demarcus Robinson could be a good bye week filler. If you need, you're basically hoping for a touchdown from him. He is touchdown dependent. But if you need that upside play on a bye week for one of your players, then Demarcus Robinson could be that guy. If you have space for him on your bench, good schedule going forward. So grab DeMarcus Robinson if you can. Next up, we'll talk tight ends. We're going to go into Adam Troutman for the Denver Broncos. Troutman, as you can see, not even registering in Sleeper is rostered, but obviously he is rostered, but it's just so low that it's registering at 0%. Troutman, past week, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 85 yards and a touchdown. Troutman seems to have kind of taken on the lead tight end role in this offense over the past week, but Krul went down with a shoulder injury this past week, and Greg Dulce just doesn't seem to be doing it, and Sean Payton does not seem to like him. Troutman goes back with Sean Payton back to the Saints days, and he seems to really like Troutman. So Troutman could be a good tight end fill for anybody out there who needs it. Tight ends really stepped up this past week, though, during tight end week. I don't know if anybody saw it, but a guy threw $10 on a lot of tight ends to score an anytime touchdown and turned it into like some stupid amount of money. $10 bet, it was thousands of dollars he won, based on the tight ends he picked to score an anytime touchdown. But yeah, tight ends big week this past week. Probably see him come down to earth a little bit this week, but Troutman could be a good bye week filler. This next guy we're going to talk is blows me away that he's still so low rostered with as consistent as he's been. But Zach Ertz. So Zach Ertz consistently getting 5+ targets a game, and a good offense with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Exciting finish this past week. That Hail Mary touchdown to Noah Brown. But the Commanders are showing that they're legit. Leading that NFC East division. 40% rostered, Ertz is. Good schedule going forward. Great schedule, actually, over the next 3 weeks and in the playoffs. But Ertz seems to be one of Jaden Daniels' go-to. So if you need a tight end, consistent tight end, grab Ertz. He's not scoring a whole lot. He did score last week. But if you just need 8 to 12 points a week, Ertz could be your guy. So grab him if he's still available. He seems to be doing pretty well this year. Next up, Will Dissly. This guy's a monster. Over the past few weeks, really been stepping up into that lead tight end role. Everybody thought it was going to be Hayden Hurst, but Dissly seems to be Herbert's go-to in the tight end spot. Week 7, 11 targets, 8 receptions, 81 yards. This past week, 7 targets, 5 receptions for 41 yards. Chargers seem to be throwing the ball a little more here lately. So Dissly could be a good week-to-week fill at tight end. He's only 3% rostered. So widely available in almost any league. Decent schedule going forward, not great. But if you need that fill-in, grab Dissly if you can. Next up, we're going to quarterbacks, but Bo Nix. Bo Nix needs to be higher than 35% rostered. It blows me away that this guy is still so low rostered. I mean, I had to drop him this past week just because I had an IR spot I had to empty, but this guy's getting it done in the air and on the ground. He's only thrown 5 interceptions all season. Granted, he's only thrown, 8 touchdowns? But where it's surprising is what he's getting done on the ground. Only 4 yards this past week, got a touchdown. 10 for 75 the week before, 6 for 61 the week before. Like, Bo Nix is getting it done on the ground, and that's what you want from a fantasy quarterback. So if he's available in your league and you don't have one of the top tier quarterbacks, Bo Nix is QB 9 right now in fantasy football. So he should be owned in more than 35% of leagues. Pretty great schedule going forward, and a really good schedule going into the fantasy playoffs. Grab Nix if you're looking to upgrade at your quarterback position. Next up, Matt Stafford. So Stafford showed exactly what he can do when he has his elite wide receivers there in LA. 25 for 34, 279, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Stafford threw more touchdowns yesterday than he had the rest of the season. And if Puka and Cooper Kupp can stay healthy the rest of the season, I think you're going to see a lot more of this from Stafford. 33% rostered in Sleeper and widely available in Yahoo and ESPN. It doesn't matter schedule-wise, really. Rams are a powerful offense when they have all their weapons. And if this offensive line gets healthier as the season goes on, this team is only going to get better. So grab Stafford. He's a good quarterback going forward. Next up, talked about his 2 wide receivers. Now I'm going to talk about him, Jameis Winston. We know back in the day, Jameis Winston was a very valuable fantasy quarterback when he had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Likes to throw the ball, not afraid to make mistakes, and he showed it yesterday. 27 for 41, 334, and 3 touchdowns, no picks. We're used to the days back when Jameis was throwing 3 TDs and 3 picks in a game, going 30 for 30 in a season. Maybe we're seeing a different Jameis. I don't know yet. One or two of the throws were questionable, but he got lucky and it didn't get picked. But either way, Jameis is going to throw the ball, and like I said, makes this Browns offense better, and he is a very valuable quarterback when he's playing his game, which he did yesterday. So if you're struggling at quarterback, grab Jameis Winston. 11% roster in Sleeper. He may even be available in some Superflex 2QB leagues if you're lucky enough that nobody picked him up last week. But you're probably going to have to dump a little bit to grab him in one of those leagues. But that's all I got for this week's waivers. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments. But make sure you hit that subscribe button in the bottom corner. Follow us on X. Follow us on Instagram at our tags below. And we will catch you guys with the next show.